Okay, and we're back. So now let's have a look at the Republicans from a point of opportunities that they now have. So the opportunities that they will have is what they've got to do is to be able to still maintain the energy of the MAGA crowd, the Trump supporters, but not bring Trump along with it because he's going to be a liability. My thoughts would be, I mean, Trump is an egomaniac, and I think everyone understands that. He always has been ever since the Apprentice. He's a businessman. And therefore he lacks a certain presidential finesse, and I think that that's just a fact of life. Has he done good stuff for the country? Absolutely, but that pales into insignificance with some of the baggage that he actually brings along as well. So I think what they should do, because he's in Mar-a-Lago, that's his place, Florida is his area, why not just do a swap with DeSantis, and make Trump the governor, and run for governor of Florida, where it's now a huge Republican base. It's going to be safe for him to do so. Let him be king of Florida, and let DeSantis have a clear run at the presidency. He's now shown his ability to be able to run, essentially one of the most powerful states in the country. And I think now that Republicans will gather around him. They'll see him as the golden boy. He's a former Navy SEAL, veteran. He's got good family. He's got good values. He's brave and courageous, and I think that's the type of person that people want to see as a president. So a lot of presidents in the United States have been former military, and those have usually been the most successful. So that's what I would recommend. Give him his safe Florida kingship, and therefore you're going to keep all the MAGA crowd, all of his energy, all of his people, and just and you'll embolden them as you go into 2024. Another opportunity is is impeachment. The Republicans have actually been on the other end of that, and now is their chance, and I think that Kamala Harris has opened herself up to potential impeachment, and potentially so is Biden as well. So you could actually see that, and of course the opportunities are, if you get to impeach both, then McCarthy steps in as president for the next 2 years, and then he's got 2 years to show his mettle before he would then seek re-election in 2024. Another opportunity is the energy policies. See, now the House is back in Republican hands. They can start to push their agenda for creating more laws in regards to going back into energy independence. And I think that's one of the first things you're going to see, because gas prices are still going to be an election issue. And therefore, this is the opportunity that they have now to be able to show that they're the party of looking after inflation and, and all of those different, what they call kitchen table issues. I think they have a good ability, the opportunity now, if they can sideline the more extreme MAGA crowd, they have a good opportunity of keeping the moderates, and therefore keeping the independents, which have actually moved towards the right. So that's another opportunity for them. And the other major opportunity is, therefore, they have an opportunity now to actually go into be the party of bipartisanship. They run the House. They anything that needs to happen, they need to do something with the Senate. So they should be looking at courting people like Manchin and Sinema, just so they can get their stuff across the board. So that they should be courting some of the moderates in the Democratic Party who want to get their names onto bills so that things can actually work. So those are the opportunities that I see. So let's have a look at some of the threats. Well, one of the big threats, of course, is going to be media aggression, especially now that Trump has said he's going to run in 2024. So the next 2 years, you're going to have the same old late night comedians. Now have got a lot more energy about them and a lot more material. You're going to see the media getting on board. The last thing that the left want is another Trump run. So the media are going to be pushing their agenda of anti-Trumpism, which actually was good for them over the last 4 to 6 years. They haven't had much to do over the last 2 years when he's been sidelined. Another threat is that Trump riles up the Democratic base. I mean, he's actually a really good way of actually pushing Democrats to come to the voting booths. And therefore, that is a major threat to the Republicans, especially when it is a majority rule. So I think we just saw this in the midterms. At least Trump waited until the midterms were over until saying he was going to run for president. But I think that's a real issue. That's going to be a threat to the Republican Party. Most of that is going to be potential litigation, especially after the Mar-a-Lago raid. That's still not done yet. There's still litigation, pending for Trump, and therefore, no one wants a potential president, especially if he's a front runner, to still be under any form of investigation or litigation going into that. So that is a real threat to the Republican Party. Someone should just get in Trump's ear and say, look, let's do a deal. Let's do a deal. Let's make sure you're happy, keep your base. If you want America to be great again, then you need to be in the back seat and not in the front seat. Another threat is that if inflation continues with the Republicans in control of the House, that will be a problem. So they've got to be shown to actually bring inflation down. I think it will. I think generally the inflation will go down over the next 6 months to a year. And therefore the Republicans may be able to claim it. But if it stays there, then they won't. And all that's going to do is actually just back up what the Democrats have been doing and saying. Another big threat is that if MAGA gets really vocal, and we've seen this now with the Marjorie Taylor Greens of life and stuff like that. They get very vocal, they get very extreme. They start making claims that are not necessarily substantiated. Everyone understands that they could be true, but there's very little evidence to back that up. So they come across in the same way as the progressive squad do, and it just seems to be just drowning out what normal people are really thinking about. Most people don't think of Green New Deals. Most people don't think, it's not their daily thing of trans rights and stuff like that. It's just not what they're thinking about. What they're thinking about is, can they afford gas and to put in the car, and are they going to be able to feed their kids, and are their kids going to be safe at school and not indoctrinated and actually taught how to read and write and do math. I mean, that's essentially what most Americans actually consider during the day. They're not considering the extremes. They're not considering, from the right, they're not considering government overreach and potential tyranny. They're not thinking about that. And they're not thinking of all of the leftist extreme stuff as well, of climate change. That's not in the normal day-to-day thoughts of most Americans. So, if they start going to the extreme or start pandering to the MAGA crowd just to retain their loyalty, that will be seen by the Americans in general as being, just the same stuff. It's just now red as opposed to blue, and it's the same old problems. So those are the threats that I potentially see. I think it's going to be an interesting year. I don't think a lot is going to get done while people start to sort themselves out. It's obviously going to be a leadership crisis as well in the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi stood down today. You're probably going to see Hakeem Jeffries come in, who's obviously a more progressive person than we saw before. Expect him to be very energized and to push a very much leftist agenda. So he sees himself as a potential, Speaker of the House in 2024. So you can expect a lot of real issues coming through with him. But as it starts to get towards 2024, most people are now recognizing the weakness of Biden. So they're starting to look around of who is going to take that on, who is actually going to be their cheerleader, who's going to be the person that actually goes into 2024. At the present time, it's probably going to be Newsom, because I don't see anyone else that's anywhere close to creating the type of charisma or energy necessary, and I think Newsom will probably fall short. So yeah, they're going to have some big issues to come, but the Republicans are going to be the same. It's the same with any type of change in leadership. All the stuff that people have been actually thinking about all comes out. So you start really recognizing who your friends are and who they're not. So expect that over the next 3 to 4 months on both sides as well. So that's my thoughts for that. If I was a Republican, that's what I'd be saying to people in the Republican Party. I hope that's a benefit. So subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now.